So now we've got our timeline, we've got our model, we've got our visualizer. We're now at the point where we're getting ready to go to site, or we are at site, and we're going to need to trigger it. So what we're actually going to look at today is a component called Multicontroller. So the first thing that you need to do within Hypnotizer is go into configuration, and we're going to add the Multicontroller component. So hit configuration. Down here, we're going to hit add, and then we're going to select Multicontroller from the list. So Multicontroller is designed to allow you to control your Hypnotizer from multiple different things. So we can control it from a scheduler, which is what I'm going to show you today. That's a new feature within 4.6. You can now set it to trigger on at certain times. But also you can trigger it from TCP, OSC, Stream Decks, automation, and loads of other different kind of protocols. You can choose to trigger it from there. So once we've added our Multicontroller component, we're going to go into our Hypnot overview, and we're just going to drag it out onto a screen so we can see what it is. And we're going to make it a little bit bigger. And the first thing we're actually going to look at, so we're in pin mappings at the moment, we're actually going to look at action mappings, which is, now zoom is onto it, hold on, move it down a little bit, just so that we can see it. So here we've got action mappings, and we're actually just going to add a new action. So within our actions, we have a few options here. We have media manager, preset operation, send TCP data, system operation, timeline operation, or timeline plus operation. Now last week we were using timeline plus, so we're going to add that as an action. The other action we're also going to look at today is a preset operation. So how do we trigger presets from different options? So if we click on our timeline plus operation, on the right here, we can choose our machine. We can choose our timeline index, so we can find that within our timeline. So our timeline is just here. So if we go into our settings, we can see here it's got an ID. We give it an ID as 1. Click OK. And we're going to go back into our Multicontroller view. And actually, I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller. So we can add in also a visualizer view. This will just allow us to see at the same time what's actually happening on the stage. So we can see our stage now. So if we click on our timeline option here, we can choose our timeline index. So we're going to choose timeline 1, and then we get some options. So we can go to queue and play. We can play, we can pause, stop. So I'm going to select go to queue. And the purpose of this is just to allow you to kind of, you'll see that our timeline has got queue numbers in, as we looked at last week. It allows you to kind of jump to certain queues. We can do that at certain times. We can do it from Stream Deck or any other way. So we're going to say go to queue number 1 and then play. So here, this is what this is going to do. So if we press test, it should see on our screen. Should go to Q1. For some reason it's not. Let's have a look. And it should play. So we can see there it's good. Timeline plus. We're going to timeline index 1. Go to queue number 1 and then play. Look at the Q1, maybe it's a queue number. Oh, there you go, yeah, you see queue number 1.1. That's why. So if you click on here, you should be able to see what the queue number actually is. There we go, 1.1. So if I go into my Multicontroller again, here, which is queue number 1.1, and then hit test. There you go, you can see now it's coming up on the screen just there. So that just shows the importance there of making sure that these numbers are correct. And using the test feature before you start as well is also quite important. because it just means that you can see that there is no problem on that point, the problem might be somewhere else. So if you're troubleshooting, it's always a good idea to do that. So the next thing that we want to do actually is look at our controllers. So in our controllers, we have control sources and control targets. Now, control sources will allow you to control hypertizer via something. So that's what we want to do today. So we're going to have a look in here. So these are all of the things that you've got an option of. So we can do AMP+, ArtNet, automation, black tracks, clock source. That's what we're going to do for the scheduler. Disney Entertainment automation, Green Hippo automation, Kinesis, keys, Posi StageNet, RF, stage text. So for now, I'm just going to add the clock source, and this will allow us to see how scheduler works. So we can see here we've got some options for our clock source. We can see that the time is set to London, which is where I currently am, so that should also be the time of the system. And then once that's set up in our action mapping, come into our timeline operation, we're going to add a new mapping. We're actually going to select date time mapping. So these all mappings all relate back to the controllers, so what type of mapping you need. Obviously, we want date and time. And then when we click on it, we can choose what type of mapping we want. So we can have it trigger every day, starting today. And we're going to set the time. So I'm going to set the time. So we're going to choose it here. Choose 15, 20. So 1 minute time. So now that should go off today at 15:20. So now if we just wait, that will go off. We should see in a minute that this will trigger the process.
And when would you use this time triggering, Susie?
So you could use it if you've got like a permanent installation going on, where you want it to kind of at 6 o'clock every day. You might want it to play a certain clip. It's also an option as well, like to do it. You can do it with the weather as well. So you can say, you know, if it's raining, play this clip. If it's not, play that clip. And you can also do it on location and orientation. So maybe if you're on like a cruise ship or something, you might want to kind of have it so that the media is turning into the direction, or you know, it's always saying that sunset is on this side or whatever. And it just allows you real flexibility to be able to use it. So yeah, that's the scheduler. So the other thing that we're going to have a look at as well is actually preset triggering. So I actually have here, I don't know if you can see this, but it's a Stream Deck controller. So what we're going to do is we're just going to simply add a new controller. So we're going to go into controllers. We're going to add a new source, and we're going to choose a Stream Deck source. So here we have our Stream Deck. We're going to select our device, and your Stream Deck should go black. That's what mine's done. In here, we've got all of the options to kind of configure the buttons. So we can make the key color blue, for instance, and you'll see here that it's now gone blue. We can put some text on it. So I'm going to call this position 1. And again, that's replicated onto my Stream Deck just to